Good evening, my dear friends. Hope you're able to hear me. Am I audible? Yes, wonderful. Thank you. All right, so welcome to session 5 of this Living in Coherence series. I know some of you have been either joining in live or watching the sessions in YouTube, recorded sessions in YouTube. So now this is session 5. So we'll do a quick recap of what we did. So we started off understanding what is consciousness and why consciousness matters. And we looked at the 6 qualities of consciousness. That was the first 3 classes. Then we looked at several models of consciousness from the perspective of mind, from the perspective of life, from the perspective of brain. We talked about conscious mind, subconscious mind, and superconscious mind. And then last week, we covered how to get the body and mind in coherence. As I said, coherence is about being in alignment with something. Coherence is always between 2 things. So 2 waves. If there are 2 waves are said to be in coherence when both have the same phase and amplitude. So when the body and mind are in sync, are in alignment, then it starts the healing process. More often than not, the body and mind are not aligned, and that is what causes stress. And we saw how stress causes this whole neurochemical cycle. And then last week, Manusha did quite a few exercises, the Ho'oponopono, stepping into others' shoes, and things like that. So that was more a practical session. And we've been sharing a lot of techniques. We've covered a lot of techniques in session 4, covering both energy-based techniques as well as psychology-based techniques. And today, it's going to be it's very exciting for me, definitely, because I'm going to cover a very new perspective into things that we used to know a different way. So it's going to be a very significant session. And I'm sure you probably will have to go look at a re-recording of the YouTube again for most of the things that we cover. So let me quickly share the screen. So we spoke about this a few classes ago in terms of the simple model of 3 levels of consciousness. We operate either from an ego consciousness, or we operate from a rational mind or learned consciousness, or we operate from the universal or soul consciousness or cosmic consciousness. Right? So that's what we saw a few classes ago. And we saw this, how those map into different levels of energy as well as another consciousness model. How ego consciousness is mostly about pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, whereas soul consciousness is more about joy, gratitude, and things like that. And then we talked about the whole spiritual quest that we are into is about moving from ego consciousness to soul consciousness. And for that, there are 2 levers, 2 tools. It's about enhancing our awareness, enhancing our mindfulness. And second one is it's about accepting the way of things. It's increased acceptance, detachment, non-attached acceptance. So that is what it is, right? And then all the techniques that we covered in class session 4 fall into one or both of these categories. Either they see, for example, things like breath work, they allow you to increase awareness. Meditation obviously allows you to increase awareness and acceptance. And there are a lot of mind-related work that we saw, which increases acceptance as well, right? And so today, I'm going to talk about a new perspective. Most of the content for today comes from these new set of content. I'm sure, I don't know how many of you in PSSM have seen some of these books. All these books are new to PSSM. So it's a book called New Psychology of Human Well-Being by Richard Barrett. There's a book on coherence It's more about using leadership in corporate circles from Alan Watkins. And then Loyal to Your Soul, very Pesasamish book. I mean, talks a lot of principles that we cover in Pyramid Spiritual Society's movement. Loyalty to Your Soul, The Heart of Spiritual Psychology by Ronald Halnick and Mary Halnick. So these are the three books. Most of the content and most of the insights that we will cover today are mentioned, right? So today's topic, as you have seen, is about emotional well-being. It's about ego-soul dynamics for emotional well-being. So let's dive into today's session. So what is well-being? So WHO also defines health or well-being the same way. It's not just the absence of disease or illness. It's a complex combination of a person's physical, mental, emotional, and social health factors. Right? Well-being is strongly linked to happiness and life satisfaction. Well-being is all about how you feel about yourself and your life. If you don't feel well, then you're not really good, right? If you, in spite of having a lot of things, a lot of people feel bad, so that their well-being level is not at par, right? So that is what is well-being. Now, what is emotional well-being, right? So there is physical well-being is about our physical health, right? The way we look, our height, weight, all our physical vitals, sugar, blood pressure, absence of pain, freedom in walking, right? Ability to have any food and things like that. Those are all physical well-being which impact the body. Whereas emotional well-being is a lot more critical, a lot more important. And last couple of classes, we saw how emotional issues have a big impact on disease and illness in physical body. How your psychological state has an impact on your physiological state. Right? So emotional well-being is about happiness and joy, having meaning and purpose in life, low levels of stress and anxiety. It's about self-esteem. It's about self-realization. It's about optimism, right? And then also it's about autonomy and competence. So we'll talk more about it. So emotional well-being is about having positive emotions, having joy, peace, confidence, happiness, right? So positive relationships, another very crucial factor for emotional well-being. Now, we all have seen this, right? One of the key factors for us moving into being in different levels of consciousness is our energy levels. And our energy levels are dictated by our thoughts and emotions, right? So we are energy beings. I mean, we've covered that in several classes. We are energy beings. So what we think we are as a physical body, but what we really are, we are energy beings. There is an energy template for this physical body. There is an energy template for our mind body, right? So we are energy beings. And then though we didn't cover in this series, a lot of us have been exposed to the model of chakras, right? So chakras are those 7 energy centers that we have in body. And we have an energy body, which is composed of 72,000 nadis flowing across our body, with each of them intersect at those 7 energy points. Right, so we're not going to cover that. And then we say, from an yogic energy science perspective, all our diseases and issues with well-being is because of blockages in different chakras. If you are afraid, if you are fearful, if you have an element of fear running in your life, then your lower chakras are blocked. Energy is flowing only there. So the idea is using the spiritual practices of breath work and meditation, mind work, is to release those energies. So that energy keeps flowing. You start feeling the love of your heart chakra. You start expressing more because of your active throat chakra and similar things. So we are energy beings. So I'm just going to start from that fundamental premise, right? And so we've covered this. I mean, there are a lot of other models where each chakra has a significance in terms of there's an emotional significance to it. And then each area of chakra is also linked to a set of endocrine glands in our physical body. So your energy body is linked to your physical body, and your thoughts and emotions from your mental body influence the energy body, which influence the physical body. That's how it works, right? So there is a thymus gland, there is a pituitary gland, so all those glands, endocrine glands. So any imbalance in one of the chakras shows up as an imbalance or a malfunctioning of those particular set of glands, endocrine glands, and this generates different set of hormones and neurochemicals, which results in malfunctioning of different parts of our body. So now, with that base that we are all energy beings, I want to get into the new topic of spiritual psychology of well-being. Right, again, awesome perspective by Richard Barrett and other authors that I mentioned there, which you should do. So what is the spiritual psychology of well-being? So emotional well-being is all about having our energy in coherence. So last week we saw body and mind. Today we're going to see mind and soul. Today we're going to see the alignment of mind and soul. When your mind is in alignment with your soul, the desires of your soul, then you are in perfect emotional health. Any dis-ease, any unease in your emotional being, any disturbed emotions is because of that alignment misalignment between your mind and soul. So emotional well-being is living life in alignment with the motivations of our soul. When we are living life in alignment with the motivations of our soul, then we are perfect. We have the perfect state of emotional health. So we will dig deeper into each of these, right? And when we live our lives in alignment with the motivations of our soul, we experience a deep sense of well-being and robust physical health because we are living in a state of energetic coherence. So last week we saw the coherence between body and mind. Right thoughts, right emotions, right positive emotions will result in positive health, positive neurochemicals flooding the body, and then positive health. Today we're going to talk about mind and soul. Right? So if your mind is aligned to the soul, the motivations of the soul, then you are in perfect emotional health. Otherwise, there is going to be a difference, right? So what is energetic coherence? So as I said, coherence is always between two things, right? So energetic coherence is your ego's needs are satisfied and your soul's desires are met. So we'll see what are these ego's needs and what are the soul's desires. And energetic instability, if you are the opposite of energetic coherence is incoherence or instability. It causes emotional distress and physical disease. So we'll figure out. So before I dive into the main topic, I want to set a few foundational things straight, right? So that we'll use a lot of these terms in the subsequent sections. So I want to clarify these. So we saw this brains thing in one of the models when we covered in class 3. When we talked about models of consciousness. So we covered this as one of the neuroscience-based models. So our brain, there are 3 key parts to our brain. We have the conscious brain or the forebrain, which is the neocortex. We have an emotional brain, which is the limbic brain. And we have a reptilian brain at the back of our head, which is more the unconscious brain or the hindbrain. When you say unconscious, it doesn't mean really unconscious. It does things unconsciously, like it takes care of the heartbeat, it takes care of regulating the blood pressure, it takes care of regulating the temperature, all that. So those are not conscious to us, but we can seek to be conscious of it as well. So these are the 3 brains, and then aligned to those are these 3 minds, right? So the neocortex or the conscious brain is always, we'll call them as rational mind. So we talked about rational consciousness. So rational mind is a thinking mind, right? I mean, if I need to solve a problem, I immediately use intelligence here. If I need to talk something, there is a sequence or a logic to it. So rational mind is what is a conscious mind. And then the limbic or emotional brain is emotional mind is the seat of all emotions, whether it is fear, anger, joy, happiness, peace, regret, resentment, everything is from there. And then the reptilian unconscious brain is the body mind. As I said, the reason we call it body mind is it completely takes care of the functioning of the body. As I said, like the heartbeat, like the blood pressure, like maintaining temperature, taking care of homeostasis, healing. I mean, it maintains a balance between the parasympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, all that. The soul mind is completely, there is no physical aspect or the brain aspect of the soul mind. Soul mind is our energy template, is our energy signature. The soul mind has only an energy part of it, not necessarily a physical or material part of it. So there is a soul mind, there's a body mind, as I said, and then we'll combine the emotional mind and rational mind into ego mind. That's what we will talk about it, right? So ego mind is our everyday, normal, working mind. And so there is this concept of dominance of minds. So at different stages of our development, different parts of the mind or different minds come into dominance. Like, for example, when a baby is born, the initial stages of a fetus, when a baby is born, the first trimester, in fact, till the end of first trimester, when from the time a baby is conceived, right, there is only the soul mind. Only at the end of the first trimester, when the mother is pregnant with the baby, is when the body mind starts forming, which is that reptilian mind at the back of our head, which takes care of the heartbeat. That is when heart starts forming. That is when all the functions start being. So soul mind is first, then the body mind starts forming. Right? Once the body mind starts forming, so the 0 to 2 years, only the body mind functions. I'll talk more about this. And then from the age of 3 to 7 years is when our emotional mind starts developing, the limbic brain. Right? So that is when we know fear, we know anger. You see babies or kids screaming. They want what they want. All that is because their emotions. They undergo joy. They undergo happiness. All that is the emotional brain. That all starts forming in 3 to 7 years. And from the age of 8 to 24 years is when our conscious brain, our ego mind starts developing. 8 to 24 years. Most of the time people spend in school and college, right? That is where they venture out, they seek out friends, they seek out relationships and all that. And then it continues to develop 25 to 39 years. And then from 40 to 49 years, again, the soul mind starts. If you are really spiritual in the path of all of you who are listening to this and many more who will listen to this. So we know there is the soul, we know we are energy. And once the ego mind, the response with the ego mind is over, we start seeking the soul mind, we start seeking purpose. And that is how the soul mind starts developing, right? So at different stages of life, different minds dominate. From 0 to 2 years, first one is the soul mind dominates, and then the body mind starts developing. Then the body mind starts developing, so the soul mind becomes the subconscious, and body mind becomes the dominant mind. And 3 to 7 years, your emotional mind becomes dominant. So your emotional mind becomes dominant, then your body mind, and then your soul mind. Soul mind gets pushed down, right? And then 8 to 40 plus years, your conscious mind, your rational mind becomes dominant. The subconscious mind becomes, that's why we call it subconscious. Subconscious mind becomes your emotional mind, and your unconscious mind stays the unconscious mind, which is your body mind. And your soul mind is completely somewhere down, right? So there are 4 levels by that time. And then as we go down this path of spiritual recovery, as we go down this path of unlearning, relearning, unlearning our programming, slowly your soul mind becomes dominant. I'll talk about why, what does it mean, right? So these are the different minds: soul mind, body mind, ego mind, and rational mind. So basically you talk about those 3, right? So we talked about ego and soul. See, here's a new perspective on what do we mean by ego and what do we mean by soul. So ego, I mean, there are a lot of books that we've spoken about earlier that probably vilify ego, right? But here is a new perspective in terms of why ego is essential to living a life on Earth, on the Earth plane, right? So ego is nothing but a field of conscious awareness that identifies with your physical body. It is responsible for the survival of your physical body. It lives in 3D material reality, and your ego or the body thinks it can die. And therefore, there are fears responsible for its security. So the ego's primary purpose or needs is basically it should ensure the body survival. It should ensure your body and mind is safe and secure. I'll talk about what is the difference between safe and secure. And ego is not who you are, it is who you think you are. Who you are is basically the soul and energy, right? And ego is a mask you wear to get your needs met in the physical, social, and cultural framework of existence. Each of us are in different social frameworks. We are in a family, we are in a community, we are in different cultures, and there are some rules to follow in each of the cultures. The ego's responsibility is to make sure, because if you don't follow a rule, your body gets affected. You don't get your needs met, right? So the ego will make sure that you follow the rules, you follow everything. So basically, your ego ensures the survival of your body, your physical body in that particular culture, in that particular family, and in that particular existence, right? What is soul? So ego is coming from a three-dimensional material reality, whereas soul comes from an energetic reality, right? Soul is energy. Soul identifies completely with your energy field. And just like ego has needs of survival, safety, and security, the soul similarly has its own set of desires, which is self-expression. I want to express myself. Connection to other beings. Because what is soul? Soul is basically that oneness energy. Soul always wants to connect to other people. Soul wants to seek out other people, right? That is the nature. Just like water flows where the slope is, similarly the soul's energy is towards that oneness. And the third desire of soul is contribution. It wants to contribute to the welfare of humanity. It wants to do service, right? You don't have a soul, you are a soul. And living at the soul level is living in oneness. Remember, that's what we talked about. Moving from ego consciousness to soul consciousness is all our quest. That is our quest here. That is our journey here, right? And when do you know your soul's desires are met? That is what is emotional coherence, energetic coherence. You feel your life has meaning, you connect to others at a deep level, and you use your gifts and talents to contribute to making a different world. We'll talk more about those. So here are some differences, right? Properties of ego, awareness, or consciousness. We talked about soul consciousness and ego consciousness, right? So ego consciousness is basically 3D material reality, time, space, and matter. We all know that, three-dimensional. There is limited. It's ego because it takes care of the body. Body has a fixed time from birth to death, and similarly there is some time, right? The material dimension of reality, the ego lives in a world limited by time and matter. It believes in death and decay. So because it believes in death and decay, that means there is something that dies and decays. There is a sense of separation, right? I am separate, my body is separate from your body. And because there is a sense of separation, there is a sense of limitation. It experiences lack. Remember, we spoke about in class 2 the qualities of consciousness. Consciousness or soul is supposed to be abundant. It's supposed to be pure. There are no limitations. Whereas ego, on the other hand, experiences limitations. It experiences lack. It experiences needs. And whenever its needs are not met, physical, emotional, then it experiences anger. And if it believes the needs may not be met, it experiences fear. So this is a two qualities or attributes of staying in ego consciousness is fear and anger. We'll talk more about it. And in the 4D energetic dimension of reality, which is more the soul awareness, there's no time. We all learned about it, right? There's timelessness. It's omnipresence, right? There's no limitation of space. There's energy, right? Energy has this sense of connectedness. So it's energy, it's timelessness, and it is omnipresent. So there's no time, no space. So soul lives in a constant state of being and connection. Because there is no time limit or no space limit, it doesn't believe in separation. It doesn't believe in decay. There's no fear of me getting lost. There is no limitation. There's no separation, right? It doesn't experience limitation. It lives in a world of possibility and abundance. That's what is consciousness. Every thought of the soul is an act of creativity. And the soul is free. It can create anything that it wants through its thoughts. And it has no needs, so no fears. Its primary experience is of unconditional love. That is the quality of love, right? So the soul's experience of reality is totally different from our ego's experience of reality. And when we talk about moving from ego consciousness to soul consciousness, it's about moving from the left to right. Traditionally, we are in that material consciousness. And there are the techniques that we've discovered or we learned about 2 sessions ago. Both energy-based techniques and mind-based techniques moves us from the ego consciousness to the soul consciousness, right? So here again, going back to our chart of ego-soul alignment. So initially, the initial 24 years, initial half of our life is pretty much spent on ego development. When I say ego development, that is the ego consciousness is dominant as we saw about it, right? So ego consciousness is dominant. So we take care of safety, we take care of security, we'll come to that. And then around 25 to 39, I mean, these years can be different across different cultures. This is pretty much what was there in the book. For us, it could be different. For some other cultures, it could be different. Right. So around the 25 to 40 years is when the ego soul alignment starts off, right? And then beyond 40 years, we start seeking meaning. We start seeking fulfillment. We start seeking purpose. So these are all qualities of soul. Till that time, we didn't worry about the soul. Then we started worrying about the soul, right? And when we automatically get those feelings, and then we get disturbed. Oh my God, this is not what I wanted to do, right? And then you change track and then do whatever you want to do. That is where the soul gets activated. Okay, when the ego mind is dominant, the first half of the lives, we let our beliefs guide our decision making. When the soul mind starts making it present, it's about values. And a lot of us fail to activate our soul. A lot of us fail to align, or that's what is the coherence between ego and soul, right? They live their lives completely in ego dominance, ego mind dominance, right? They looked at things rationally. For them, safety, security, those are the things that are dominant. They don't think about meaning and purpose and things like that. So we use our beliefs, and then they're all driven by their own beliefs, limiting beliefs or whatever, right? What are beliefs and what are values? Again, very important when we talk about emotional well-being. So beliefs are always personal. Beliefs are more for the ego mind, right? It's assumptions we hold to be true. It's contextual to our social. So two people in the same family will have different sets of beliefs. Two people working in the same company will have different sets of beliefs. Two people in a community or a different set of families will have different sets of beliefs. It's contextual to their individual environment. And these beliefs are formed during the first 24 years. They could either be unconscious, oh, I need food every 6 hours. We've seen, a lot of us have seen how our beliefs around food has changed over the last several years, right? We thought we need food every 6 hours. We need to eat food every 4 hours for us to be feeling energetic. And then over time, we learned a lot of things. We did a lot of emergent learning, then figured out we want to eat food only when we feel hungry, right? So food is not really essential all the time. And then there are other things that impact your well-being. You don't necessarily feel tired just because of the lack of food. You feel tired because of lack of energy, right? So there are different things that we learn over time. And then what are values? Values are something we consider important, right? Ego values survival, safety, security. Soul values self-expression, connection, and contribution. And again, there could be positive values like friendship, trust, and creativity. And there could be potentially limiting values like status seeking, power seeking, right? Blaming someone else. So there could also be values. Why is it important? Because when we are living in soul consciousness, it's more about values. We need to get out of our limiting beliefs to live in soul consciousness. We connect to the higher dimensions of reality through our emotions and feelings. And emotions and feelings are the shifts in the energy field of ego mind and soul mind. So what are emotions and feelings? Emotions is basically energy in motion, as we talked about. We'll cover that. And anytime we feel an emotion, anytime we do a feeling, so those are the language of what your mind tells. Like I said, right? I mean, thoughts are the language of your mind, and feelings are the language of your soul. Emotions and feelings are the shifts in energy field and ego mind that occur when we get our needs met or fail. Okay, so again, a bit more about ego and soul. Every decision we make in life is either motivated by ego or motivated by the soul. Every decision. The reason we make decisions is to get our needs met. So let's quickly talk about what are the needs or motivations of ego and soul before we dive into a model that helps us analyze our ego and soul development. So motivations of the ego are these. As I said, physical survival, keep the body safe from harm, physical safety, emotional safety, feeling accepted and loved in your family and social environment, right? Physical security, body safe. So survival is about survival of your body. Safety is about physical and emotional safety in the environment of your family. You need to feel accepted. You need to feel recognized by your parents, by your family. And then physical and emotional security is when you step out of the family. It's about physical and emotional acceptance, physical and emotional empowerment, feeling recognized and respected in the community or cultural environment. So degree to which you can fulfill your ego, survival, safety, and security needs is degree which you experience love in your life, right? So anytime any of these are compromised, those start forming those negative energy in your emotional field. We'll come there. So here is that, right? So ego survival, when we have supportive relationships, when we have a sense of belonging, when we feel worthy enough, when we feel respected enough, when we have a sense of power. So that is what leads to the survival of ego. So ego needs to survive in the sense that ego needs to take care of the body. So health, happiness, and content, right? When you feel that you're not wanted, for example, when kids don't feel wanted in a family, that is when they start developing fear. That is when they start developing anxiety. That's when they start developing anger, right? They feel I'm not important, no recognition. And they feel I'm not loved, right? So basically they don't get the love of parents. They don't get the love of family members. People just ignore, okay, that's okay. So everyone does it. What's big deal about you? We keep talking about it, right? So that is when that means that ego as a child needs attention, needs security. But the moment that we don't give it, that forms an emotional block in that particular child at that particular time. You saw the years of experience, right? So for ego to survive in health and happiness, it needs a sense of belonging. It needs a sense of respect. It needs a sense of self-worth. When in the absence of those, it starts forming fear patterns. It starts forming anger patterns. Similarly, what is the motivation of the soul? And I think in the ego patterns and ego motivations, we've covered a lot in several classes. So motivations of the soul are self-expression, connection, and contribution. Right? Self-expression is about allowing the passion and creativity, whatever talents that we have, whatever skills we have, we need to start using them creatively. That is what is self-expression. Right? Connection, having loving relationships, living in a value-driven life. So those are all the imperatives of soul. And then the ability to contribute using our skills and gifts and talents to support the well-being of others, support the well-being of the community, support the well-being of the country, right? That is what is contribution. These are the three key motivations of the soul. When you ignore, when you don't allow the soul to do any of these, when you suppress expression, when you do not form or do not have loving relationships with others, not just your family, when you're not able to connect to other people, obviously you cannot contribute. Only when you're able to connect to a larger whole, you're able to contribute, right? That is what is a purpose-driven life. When we live by these values, we resonate with other people and we can connect. If you're not able to connect, we cannot contribute to their well-being, right? So most often than not, these are ignored. Again, very similar chart. The degree to which you can fulfill your soul's expression, connection is the degree to which you experience well-being. That's an important fact of, that is what I said, the new psychology of well-being involves what the soul needs as well. It's not just about positive emotions and negative emotions. It's not just about think the right thought and your physical body will be good. There is another dimension to our well-being, which is the well-being of the soul, which is the purpose why we've incarnated in this lifetime. And the reason we've incarnated in the lifetime is this three. We want to express, we want to connect, and we want to serve the community. In the absence of those, in the absence of suppressing our soul's motivations, what it results is sadness, depression, and poor health. The soul's and motivation, ego's motivations are linked. Remember, there are three motivations for ego: survival, safety, and security. And similarly, there are three motivations for soul: self-expression, connection, and contribution, right? And the reason the soul, who created the ego, the reason the soul creates ego is because for it to shield it from material awareness. Okay, let me just pause here. Just want to. So here I want to kind of talk a bit about why the soul incarnates in 3D material reality. all of us know initially, I mean, some of you know the Big Bang theory and all that, right? Say everything was energy, everything was one energy at that point of time. Everything was universal energy, everything was consciousness, right? But the theory here is for consciousness to experience itself, for consciousness to be experiencing itself, it needs to be active. For it to be active, how does it experience itself? Experience comes from our senses. Consciousness is at one level of energy, but for it to express itself, for it to experience, it tries to incarnate in this three-dimensional reality where we have the six senses, we experience things using six senses. That is the whole reason why the soul, why the consciousness, why the universal energy starts splitting into multiple small bunches of soul energy. So there are multiple souls. The soul, once it enters the three-dimensional reality through, as I said, through conception, through the 0 to 2 years, that whole model, right? Once the soul comes in, it is energy. It doesn't know anything about three-dimensional material reality, because three-dimensional reality is all about separation, right? There is you and me, there is matter, there is limited time, there is limited space. We talked about it, right? So the soul needs a kind of a protection for it to exist here, for it to continue its purpose. What is soul's purpose? Self-expression, connection, contribution. So that is why the soul creates this ego energy as well, to make sure it kind of can reside in the physical body, right? Otherwise, what happens? Because physical body has its own limitation. So for the physical body to function, it needs the body mind. For the physical body to go and live in the world, it needs the emotional mind, right? And then the rational mind for it to learn and get its purpose. So the soul or the soul energy comes from a four-dimensional energy world to this three-dimensional material world. And for it to survive, it creates this whole ego, the ego mind. The first half of our lives is spent on catering to our ego mind. If we realize this is the knowledge, this is the reason behind our ego mind, then obviously, as most of us are discovering now, we would have stopped being programmed, right? Unfortunately, that's not part of our educational curriculum, right? So we are told to do this, we are told to behave a certain way. So those are all limitations. Those are all limiting beliefs that we form during our ego mind years, right? And then we start unlearning. Oh, that is not right. That is not true. That is not true. Now let me unlearn. So that's what we are going through this whole process. Now, in the first half of the life, if we understand that the purpose of ego mind is just there for it to give energy to the soul, for it to express itself, then our whole behavior and our whole pattern changes. Right? That is what the ego mind exists for the soul mind to achieve its purpose. There is ego mind as a meaning, whereas soul as a purpose. And what is a purpose? There are a set of skills that the soul brings. And again, the soul energy brings something from the past lives as well. All of us know that, right? We talk about samskaras, we talk about imprints from the past life. So, and most often than not, a lot of people in their early stages of evolution, they continue to live in their ego consciousness throughout their life. And when the soul leaves, it will feel, oh my God, I came here, I lived here for the last 70 years or 80 years or 100 years. Unfortunately, I've not been able to express myself. I've not been able to find that connection to everybody. I've not been able to feel the oneness. So it goes back and tries to reincarnate again where it finds the right environment for it to achieve its purpose. It takes a next life, right? In that life, hopefully, if that person, if that ego body understands its significance, then it'll start the realization. That's what we mean by realization. That it starts expressing itself. If not, if that particular body continues to be in the ego conscious for that particular lifetime, again, the soul comes back in a subsequent lifetime. That's the whole idea of this incarnation. And you must have heard about the soul's journey, right? There are some souls, infant souls, which are going through this early part of this. There are adult souls which have gone through multiple incarnations, which are more closer to soul consciousness than ego consciousness. So amazing reasons and insights behind why ego exists, and then what is the purpose of soul. So going back, as we said, the ego needs to survive. It needs to feel safe and needs to feel. The ego provides that foundation for the soul to express. If the foundation itself is wrong, foundation itself is shaky, foundation itself is mired in ignorance, foundation itself is kind of programmed with limiting beliefs, then the soul doesn't have an opportunity to express. And that is a big cause for a lot of our emotional turbulence, a lot of our emotions and feelings, right? So if the ego doesn't feel loud, if you don't feel loud, it is difficult to feel love for others. If you don't feel recognized in your own community, right? Why would you go and make a contribution? Why do you go and do service to community, right? So the whole important thing is you need to master your ego needs first, and then you'll be able to fulfill your growth needs. And before moving to the model of the section, I just want to highlight this wonderful quote. A lot of people jump into higher consciousness. So higher consciousness is soul consciousness. The lower consciousness, more the ego consciousness. And then there is one period where both of them get aligned, right? So a lot of people jump into higher consciousness and forget about lower consciousness. They haven't done their ego work, their feeling work, right? So they have their feelings, they have their energy imprints, they have their energy imbalances in their body, but they suddenly do things like energy healing, like shamanism, right? Like Kundalini activation. So all gets them into higher consciousness, but their ego work has not been done, right? It's like just a mood alteration, right? It's like a trip. You can take psychedelics. We talked about psychedelics and then go into higher levels of consciousness. But the most important thing is we'll have to work through our ego needs. We have to work through our feelings. Only then there is a solid foundation for our soul to be realized or become realized, right? So wonderful mood alteration. It's called compulsive spirituality. I need to get awakening. A lot of people say, how do I get moksha? I need to get awakened. I need to get self-realized. I need to feel that enlightenment, right? It is no easy path to enlightenment. We'll have to work through the whole process. And that process is what we will talk about in terms of the spiritual psychology model. There is this model I kept. In fact, I mentioned that in the models of consciousness session and said we will cover it later. And this is that later, right? So there is this 7-stage psychology development, 7 stages of psychological development that comes out of both. It's a combination of psychology and spirituality. So in this, you start from the bottom. It very much relates to the number of the years that I mentioned, right? So level 1 is surviving. First, and some of you who are familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's very, very similar. It's aligned to that. There is a dimension of self-actualization, which he talks about, is what we expand here. So level 1, stage 1, which is 0 to 2 years of our life, when our when our body mind is developing, all it needs is basically satisfying your physiological needs by learning how to stay alive, keep fit and healthy. That is what is at first stage of consciousness or first stage of development. The second stage of development is about feeling safe. This is the 3 to 7 years, where you start working with your family, you start responding to people in your family, right? Keeping safe, nurtured, being loyal to your family, your kin, your colleague, your culture. Conforming to rules. Conforming is basically conforming. The family has rules, the society has rules. Conforming to the rules is what is second stage of development. The third stage of development is when you start differentiating yourself. These are my skills. If I sing well, if I get something, then I'm admired and recognized by my parents and peers. You start finding what are your talents, what are your skills. That is the differentiating part of it, right? And then the fourth stage of consciousness, or the fourth stage of psychological development, is about individuating. You start feeling you're an individual. Till then, you are dependent on your family, you're dependent on your peers, dependent on your community. Stage 4 is about individuating. It's letting go of aspects of your parent and cultural conditioning, right? And that is where you feel empowered. That is where you feel as an individual, you're becoming who you really are. That is where you start answering these questions: who am I? What did I come here for? That is the stage. If you are asking those questions, you are at that level or that stage of consciousness. In stage 5, 6, 7 are more related with the soul. We just talked about some of the things, right? So stage 5 is about becoming fully who you are by finding a sense of purpose. You're expressing things to the world, right? You have a talent of teaching, you have a talent of singing, you have a talent of sports, you have a talent of working with other people. Whatever it is, you're bringing that into light. You start expressing. The whole purpose of soul is to express. And then number 6 is about connecting, integrating, aligning with others who share your values. Okay, I am a singer. I work with other people who are in that same fraternity. I am an artist. I work with other people in the same fraternity. Aligning with others who share your values and purpose to make a difference in the world. Then number 7 is about serving, fulfilling your destiny by leaving a legacy and gifts. Interestingly, there is a alignment of the 7th stage to the 7 energy centers of our body, our 7 chakras as well, right? And then the fourth stage is basically aligned to our 4th chakra, which is our heart. Below the heart are the 3 chakras of our ego. Above the heart are the 3 chakras of our soul. So that is how it's aligned. The stages of psychological development, right? And then this puts up that map. The first 3 levels: surviving, conforming, differentiating, our ego development or our body development. And then we start looking at ego soul alignment and soul activation. That's what is about ego soul dynamics. And we perfectly follow this, perfectly align with each stage, has its own needs, it has its own ways of being things. If you don't follow that, then that results in emotional turbulence, right? This is our earlier table. Now with an addition of psychological development, right? So we'll talk about each of these one by one. So if you look at it, the initial stages of our life is aligned to our ego. As our brain develops, our body, mind, and emotional mind, ego, mind develop. And those are the stages of surviving, conforming, and differentiating, right? And then it goes along. Just bear with me for a couple of minutes. I'll talk about why we are talking. Now, a bit more into each of these stages, right? The surviving stage of psychological development is from birth to 2 years. And as I said, it's all about staying alive. It's about what happens with the babies, right? All they need is sleep and food, right? It just body continues to grow. They don't need anything else, right? So when they are hungry, they cry. When they need when they're having some body issues, they cry, and then they seek attention, and then that is what they need. It's about helping the baby survive. And if they are challenged by that, those survival, when their particular body mind is challenged by no one taking care of them the right way, then the body starts creating some kind of beliefs, limiting beliefs, saying that, okay, so no one is going to take care of me. I'll have to take care of myself. So that is the kind of beliefs that will start, right? And then 2 to 7 years, it's about conforming. As I said, it's about following the rules. It's about making sure you stay close to your kin and your family. It's about love. It's about belonging. That is where the ego body or the ego mind knows this is my family. It is not my family. These are my parents, right? This is my grandpa. This is my brother. And there are certain rules to follow. And the ego mind, this is where the subconscious mind starts developing. It starts screaming. It says, I want this. No matter what, I want this, right? I want it. It kind of starts doing things stubbornly. Then it starts learning, right? Then what happens? The parent says, no, if you do that, then you don't get this, right? If you do that, you get this. There is this whole carrot and stick. So the conscious mind or that stage of consciousness starts knowing the rules of living, right? And then it says, I need to follow certain rules for me to felt belong, for people to love me, right? And it's about safety, it's about harmony. And then, as I said, differentiating, establishing yourself in a community by displaying your gifts and skills and talent. 8 to 24 years, that's most of our schooling and education years. We learn a lot of new skills. We learn unfortunately, we don't learn what is really life and what is ego and soul, but we learn a lot of skills and talents. We discover what our talent is during those years. We start out living with other people. We start working with other people. So we move out of the family boundaries. What happens? Immediately the body mind and the ego mind start. If someone says you're not good, immediately the ego mind starts protecting you so that you don't feel bad, right? So that is what more about security and achievement. And then, as I said, 25 to 39 years, this individual, I think I pretty much covered most of these earlier. Discovering your true identity by letting go of your dependence on others. 25 to 39 is identity. 40 to 49 is expressing your true nature. 50 to 59 is more about connecting with others in unconditional loving relationships. And then 60 plus years about alleviating your suffering and caring for well-being of others, right? So we've covered most of these in several of the earlier slides, but net, what we are looking at is this, right? There are the 7 stages and they're aligned to these different years, right? And then at every stage of your life, if you don't meet the requirements of that particular stage, then you create emotional imbalance. You create an energy imbalance in your body. And path to health and well-being is about satisfying your ego's needs as well as soul's desires. If you're unable to satisfy your ego's needs, it will be difficult to satisfy the soul's desires, right? So the importance of the first 24 years of life. First 24 years of life shapes your programming, shapes your behavior, shapes the way you look at things in the subsequent half of your life. But again, it's very important. We talk about conscious parenting, and I'm sure this itself merits such a great session. So the emotional health during our childhood is far more important to the satisfaction level as an adult. So a lot of emotional disturbances that we see now when we are adults, you can always relate it to a lot of things that you did not get during those first 3 stages. For example, if you didn't feel loved in the first 24 years, right, then you form a belief that I need to take care of myself. No one is going to love me. If you didn't feel recognized in the first 24 years, right, then you go into a shell, right? And you go into this thing saying that no matter what I do, people don't recognize me, right? And then so that is a limiting belief that we form, and then that doesn't align your soul to your ego in the later years. Failure to nurture, and that is why the emotional development of our children, the first 20 years, is very, very important for them to be realizing the purpose of their life, for them to be living their soul desires during the higher stages of psychological development. And this is just another chart that aligns the levels of consciousness to the stages of development. In interest of time, I think I'll move. Okay, so this is very important. Why are those stages important? Why are those stages of development very important to our emotional well-being? As I said, as we saw in the beginning, right, we are the soul mind. Soul mind is full of energy, right? Soul mind is full of love. Soul mind is full of, full of consciousness, full of peace, right? And then what happens as we incarnate in the 3-dimensional earth plane, we start limiting, we start narrowing down the whole awareness or consciousness, right? So at level 1, it's just the body mind. Then level 2 is emotional mind. Level 3 is rational mind, right? And then we again start getting back, expand our consciousness in levels 5, 6, and 7. So 1 is limited consciousness. 2 is a bit more bigger consciousness. Level 3 is more consciousness. That is for the whole point. We covered a lot of consciousness related stuff. So we descend from soul consciousness. We go through our life in ego consciousness. And then later we come back realizing our soul consciousness. This is how our life goes through the different stages. Right? So for someone, this is a normal curve for someone who's been, and it is possible that this curve could not even, cannot, for most of the people, I would say maybe 60 to 70% of the people, this curve just goes flat here. They don't even realize their soul consciousness, and they continue to stay in ego consciousness if they don't understand the wisdom behind the soul. They don't have no techniques of going back to our soul, right? For a lot of us who are in our journey of acceptance, so we kind of get to that path faster, right? So we don't continue in ego consciousness for a longer time. We probably do it much faster. That is the whole purpose of a spiritual quest, moving from awareness to acceptance, right? And how do we experience consciousness? So we said there are consciousness shifts, right? So from ego consciousness to soul consciousness. How do we experience? We experience consciousness through our sensations and feelings, through our emotions. And let me just differentiate between what we mean by emotions and feelings, right? So there is sensation that we experience in body, physical pain, itching, hunger. All these are sensations that are experienced in the body, some kind of discomfort in different parts of the body, right? and feelings are experienced in the mind. So what is the difference between emotion and feeling? So emotions are a reflection of energy shifts. So emotions is what we've always talked about it, right? Emotions are energy in motion. The mind, emotions arise in two ways, triggering up a memory of a positive or negative experience. You see someone that you know, right? Immediately what happens? Your memory works. It says, this is this person, so and so. If it remembers a name, it attaches a name, or it will also attach a feeling to it in terms of the emotion. It says, this person spoke well of you. He regards you well. Immediately, there is the emotion of appreciation, emotion of affection coming to you. If that particular person spoke ill about you sometime at work, he said, hey, that guy, is nothing to do. He doesn't know anything, right? He did something really bad some time ago, right? Or he's just a joker. So if there is that particular comment, immediately as soon as you see the person, it triggers a negative experience. Oh my God, that person who didn't talk well of me. Immediately what happens? You either experience anger or you experience hatred, right? Those are emotions. So it triggers a memory. Emotions arise when you associate something to a memory. And second thing is it creates positive or negative scenarios in your mind of the future. It's either the past triggers an emotion or an expectation of a positive or a negative scenario. For example, you're traveling next week on a vacation, right? Just the fact that you'll be going on a vacation to a wonderful scenic place triggers an emotion of happiness, emotion of joy, and okay, I'm going to get relieved of my current job or whatever, right? The mind gives context. So the mind gives context to an emotion by generating a feeling, right? Emotions are reflection of energy shifts. Sudden increase or decrease in your vibration of energy field results in an emotion. And emotion does not arise from a change in a circumstance. Just because a person came and went, or just because it is hot or cold, your emotion doesn't arise because of that. If that is the case, everyone universally will have the same emotion, right? For example, it's hot nowadays in Bangalore. Different people will have different emotions. Oh my God, it's hot. I don't want to be at home. I don't know. There are some other people who don't feel the same. That means it's contextual, right? That means emotions do not arise just because the temperature has gone beyond some limit or below some limit. It arises because of the meaning we give to the change in circumstance. I lose a job. Obviously, there's an emotion to me, right? The emotion is not because of me losing a job, but the two different people who lost their job will feel differently. One person might feel happy, oh my God, okay, that's a good riddance. Anyway, I was going to look for a new job. It's a good opportunity for me to go. Whereas a different person who is completely dependent on the job will feel very bad. Oh my God, why did I lose my job? Am I not worthy enough? Am I not doing what will people think? So that's different. So it arises from the meaning that we give in the change in circumstance. We become aware of an emotion after we experience a positive or a negative feeling. Emotions are visible, feelings are not. Oh, here is an example. There are only a certain basic steps of emotion. For example, emotion of fear, right, could lead to a feeling of terror, terrified, could lead to a feeling of worry, could lead to a feeling of insecurity, right? All these are different levels of energies, but the emotion is still fear, right? I'm afraid of losing my job. There's a feeling of insecurity. There's a fear of losing my job gives rise to insecurity. A fear of some person not returning from, let's say your kid has gone to school and he's not come back on time. What happens? You start worrying. That's worry. Feeling of worry, but still comes from the same emotion of fear. So there are these 6 basic emotions that all of us go through. Right? Again, the reason that we talked about those psychological model, we talked about ego mind, body mind, and soul mind, right? and those minds are aligned to those. So the ego mind gives rise to when the ego's needs are met, it's happy. I need food. I need respect. I need recognition. Then it's happy. Someone recognizes you, it's happy, right? For example, I did a wonderful job, but someone did not recognize me. Someone did not say, "Wow, you did a great job." What do I feel? I feel anger. Oh my God, I did so much. No one recognized me. So that means the need for recognition, which is a need of ego, is not met. That means it's kind of gone to the state of anger. And tomorrow I'm going to go do a presentation in front of 500 people, right? And I want them to be feeling happy that I've delivered the presentation. What happened? What is the emotion that I have? I'm anxious. My ego mind needs recognition, but I don't know whether I'll be recognized or not. So the needs may be met or may not be met. That gives rise to the feeling of anxiety. Similarly, body emotion. What does body got to do? Just survival, right? I'm here, living, talking. I have food. I need water. So basically, the emotion of body, that tomorrow I may not get food. Tomorrow I may not get water. 10 days from now, I may not feel good in a warm climate, whatever it is. It gives the emotion of fear. When your body's need is not met, when you're completely hungry, you're completely thirsty, what happens? You are in distress. Oh my God, I'm feeling very hungry. I'm feeling very, very thirsty, right? So that is what is. And when if your soul's desires are met, if you find a sense of meaning, if you find a sense of purpose, then you feel an emotion of joy. And if your soul's desires are not met, you feel an emotion of sadness. You don't feel fulfilled, right? And each of these emotions give rise to different feelings. There is an ego mind feeling, there's a soul mind feeling, there's a body mind sensation. As I said, body's got to do with feeling. So if you look at it, feeling satisfied is a feeling of ego mind. Feeling impatient, jealous, and anxious is a feeling of the ego mind when your ego's needs are not met. Similarly, feeling centered, feeling compassionate, feeling fulfilled come from your soul mind. They're not coming from your ego mind, right? So that way you will know what of your feeling is more soul aligned, what of your feeling is more ego aligned, right? And when you feel rejuvenated, refreshed, when you feel tired for example, you walked for 10 kilometers without having an ounce of water, a drop of water, what do you feel? Your body feels tired. So that means it's a negative feeling aligned with the body mind. So you feel lethargic, you feel listless, you feel tired. Whereas when you rested your body with good sleep, good food, good nourishment, then you feel rejuvenated, right? Then you feel renewed, then you feel rested. So there are these positive feelings aligned with body, ego, and soul, and then negative feelings as well with body, ego, and soul. And then the second thing is also about the intensity of feelings. You attach a feeling depending on the intensity. For example, if I am extremely happy because I've achieved something. For example, I enter a competition, I've got the gold medal in that particular competition, I'm extremely happy, extremely thrilled. So that's a high intensity happiness, which is excited, thrilled, and elated, right? Very similar when I'm going into a completely unknown zone, right? Then I'm very terrified. Or let's say, for example, I'm getting into something where I completely do not know what is going to happen, right? Completely anxious. Then you're totally terrified, you're totally petrified, or you did something and someone came and abused you. So that's all terrified and petrified, right? Anger. So again, different levels of anger, different levels of energy to that emotion of anger. Rage, hatred, right? Hatred is an energy of anger that continues for a long time. Whereas rage is something that you continue to bottle up anger. Okay, you're angry, you don't express it. You're angry, you don't express it. At some point of time, it will burst open. That is rage, right? Similarly, the soul also, there are times when we are in deep meditation. I felt it when you're absolutely ecstatic, absolutely blissful. Could be deep meditation. It could be absolutely something that you love to engage in. You are in the zone. you are in flow. That is when very high intensity of joy happens. Absolutely rapturous, absolutely ecstatic. Right? Medium is you're exuberant, you're enthusiastic, you're gleeful. And then low level of joy is okay, you're blissful, I'm happy, I'm grateful. Right? Similarly, sadness. Your soul experiences sadness in different levels. A high level of sadness is hopelessness, is despair. Whereas a medium level of sadness, you call it as grief, discouragement. And then low level of sadness, you're disappointed. You're feeling lonely, right? So the reason we're talking about this is because the type of feeling, the type of emotion, depending on where it arises, the body mind, ego mind, or soul mind, and the intensity of the feeling has a bearing on your energy composition. For you to be staying in energetic coherence, you need to be aware of what it is. Right. So here is a wonderful, I think we're getting close to the end of the presentation. So here is how our emotion works. Putting together all of the sensations, feelings, and emotions and behavior into one picture, right? So this is again a lot of literature in Buddhist philosophy, in Eastern philosophy, and also in yogic science that talks about this whole cycle. So the Buddhists call this as 6 sense doors. We have 5 senses and thought. All our sensations, all our inputs to our ego mind come from these 5 senses of our body and thoughts of our mind. Those are the 6 senses. And every time something comes, something we allow to our sense door, there is a sensation, there is a vibration in any part of our body. As soon as we feel a sensation or a vibration of part of our body, then our mind kicks in and triggers a memory and attaches a meaning to it. Whether it is pleasant, then it attaches a feeling of pleasant, as what Buddhists call it, is called a feeling tone. You either get a pleasant feeling, an unpleasant feeling, or a neutral feeling. Right? Pleasant feeling is joy, happiness, acceptance, peace. Unpleasant feeling is something that you want to avoid. Right? Is anger, is hatred, aversion, all that. And the neutral is I'm okay. So the pleasant or unpleasant gives rise to that emotion of anger, of fear, of feeling stuff, and then it gives rise to a feeling, right? Feeling is what we saw here. We saw these are the basic types of emotions. These are different types of feelings that come from those emotions. And then that in turn dictates our behavior. Suppose my kid does something annoying, right? So for example, one of the common things that we see is we ask our kids to stop their screen time and they don't stop at the right time. What happens? I feel an immediate energetic sensation. I feel something. I recognize that my kid is using screen time for more than what is needed. And I tell them once, I tell them twice, they don't listen. Immediately, the mind starts working. Oh, she's like that, or he's like that. And they don't listen to me. They don't behave as I want them to behave, right? And then immediately there is a sense of feeling unpleasantness. That is the feeling tone. And then immediately the emotion of anger comes up. Oh my God, why is he or she not listening? And then I get the feeling of infuriated, right? I get the feeling of being ignored. I get the feeling of someone not listening to me. I get the feeling of my ego mind attaches that feeling. Immediately my behavior is to shout at that person. I've told you so many times to kind of stop your screen or give me your iPad, you not listen. Right? And then the other person starts yelling back at you, and then again this whole loop starts happening. So the source of these sensations and feelings are changes in the energetic vibrations of our energy field. All this has an impact on our energy field. Right? And that is where negative emotions are the ones that cause this whole energetic instability. Right? I'll just quickly move on. So the causes for this energetic instability is basically things like deficiency. We call it as deficient sensations, limiting beliefs, repressed emotions, and a lack of meaning. I'll just quickly, we'll cover some of these, probably we'll cover more of these in the next session. We don't have time to get there. Okay, I just want to talk about repressed emotions because we talked more about emotional well-being, right? There are 2 types of repressed psychological pain. Emotions we are afraid to express, and emotions and feelings, we don't attach a meaning to it. So for example, someone ignored you at a party, or someone ignored you in some behavior in a social setting, right? So you think, you make an assumption that that particular person ignored you because of you. That's what the ego tries to tell you. But as long as you're not attaching a meaning to it, then that forms a negative energy. Oh my God, that person ignored me, right? Then there's a negative experience that you feel, right? So, but when you start when you start making a conscious meaning, attach a conscious meaning to it, you become aware of it. Oh, that person did not see me. That person did not see me. That is why he ignored me. He didn't see me. That is why he didn't give that something to me, right? Then if you are aware and you accept that, then that particular energy doesn't get attached or attracted in your field. But the moment that you associate with the feeling, you go through this entire feeling loop here that you see here, then negative emotions stay assigned in your energy field. And anytime, for example, when we start growing up in the initial years, a lot of things that we are not supposed to do, and sometimes we feel angry. We repress our anger because if I express my anger, I'll not be able to survive in that job. I'll not be able to survive in the feeling. Those are all suppressed. They're all part of your subconscious mind, right? They become relegated to your energy field. So the impact of not being conscious of negative experience is, if the body mind, it fears death, it results in sadness, it represents to the soul mind. If your emotional mind feels negative things, it represents things to your body mind, and that is what causes all the body illnesses. If your rational mind feels insecure, if there is a fear in your rational mind, it results in impaired relationships, right? We talked about that. The soul mind, soul mind, body mind, emotional mind, and rational mind. If your rational mind feels fearful of something, it represses it to your emotional mind. So it stops behaving well in relationships. If your emotional mind feels some fear, then it relates to the body mind, which is where all your body diseases start happening. And your body mind feels bad, feels that something is impacting it, then it represents to the soul mind, which results in sadness because the soul is not able to achieve what it needs. We'll cover more of these in the next session, which is more about conscious creation. Now, two last things. So we've heard about the 7 stages of development, and we saw most of our emotional inconsistencies or insecurities is because of not being aligned with those 7 stages of development, and that results in energy imbalances or emotional imbalances. How do we get out of it? What is the solution? Number 1 is to bring any of those unconscious or subconscious emotional baggage into consciousness, into conscious awareness, right? You must have heard about past life regression. We spoke a lot of things, a lot of techniques. You must have heard about inner child healing. You must have heard about how we do some mind work. We relate some emotional pattern to something that happened in our childhood, some recognition, something that allowed us to form a limiting belief, right? Once we bring that into conscious awareness, that limiting belief goes away. The purpose of consciousness is to manage that entity's energetic stability. So anything that we bring into conscious awareness, that goes away. And that's what we see in meditation as well. And once we start assigning a meaning to an emotion, meaning making, right? So we will cover this more about this later. So I want to quickly jump into, okay, we did cover that. When we can satisfy the soul's desires, what is meaning making, right? When we can satisfy the soul's desires for self-expression, connection, and contribution, the soul feels a sense of fulfillment and ego feels a sense of meaning. That is our highest state of emotional well-being, which we all seek for. I think we've covered that repeatedly. And we'll cover most of these. We're trying to do a coherence coach training. We'll talk about that in the next session as well. We're doing a 5-day residential course in Pyramid Valley on all these techniques, on allowing you to kind of come up with your own consciousness map, going back, regressing. It'll cover things like inner child healing and all that. Now, let me come to one method of bringing things into our conscious awareness. I'm not sure whether we covered this in our earlier session. So all of us are practicing Anapanasati meditation. right? So we'll go through that practice now. So Buddha was one of the first persons who kind of got through this cycle. He discovered that all of suffering is because of craving for a particular positive feeling, right? Or avoiding a negative feeling. And he said all those feelings, if you look at the feeling tone, he focused on this. And he said, if you're able to identify a positive feeling or a negative feeling, and you're able to be mindful of it, then you don't go through this last 3 stages of cycle. That's what is mindfulness, right? So it's not about becoming aware after you become angry. It's not about becoming aware when you feel anger. It's about becoming aware before you get the feeling of anger, get the feeling of frustration. That is about when you feel pleasant or unpleasant, right? And then that is what is talks about in Anapanasati meditation, right? This Anapanasati Sutra goes through 4. It's a set of discourses. In this discourse, it talks about 16 things, and 16 things are related to 4. First is about becoming more about body, which is more kaya anupasana, right? You feel, how do we feel about body? Because we talked about sensations, right? So body has a sensation. We're becoming more aware about sensations in the body, more aware about our breath, right? We use the breath to become more aware of the sensations in our body. Second, as we continue to progress, we become more aware of our feeling. In fact, he talks about feeling tone, pleasant, unpleasant, right? And then we go beyond that. Then we become aware of the thoughts and emotions that cause those feelings. And the last one, we start realizing the insights that all feelings, all thoughts are impermanent. All feelings and all thoughts are, they come and go, right? They fade away, and there's nothing need to worry about, right? So as we continue to do our Anapanasati meditation, we go through these 4 stages: mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of mental states, and mindfulness of dhammas, which is the truths, right? That is what we practice when we start doing Anapanasati. We start continues to focus on meditation, on our breath. Anytime we feel sensation, anytime we feel thoughts, we observe them, we let go of them, we bring our attention back to our breath. As we continue to practice this throughout our daytime, throughout your life, throughout our living moments or our working moments, we are aware of what our body feels. Any emotion is triggered in the body first, right? The body is an energy field. We are able to become more aware of it, become more conscious of it. That is number 1. The second thing it does is, as we continue to do our meditation, any hidden subconscious patterns, any hidden limitations of our limited beliefs, they get cleared, they get cleansed. We spoke about it. As we continue to do meditation, our brain calms, then cleansing of subconscious patterns happens, and then we start connecting to our soul. We talked about 3 levels, right? Calms our mind, starts connecting with soul, which is the ego-soul alignment. And then we start realizing the intelligence or consciousness of our soul. All right. So with that, my dear friends, I know it was quite a bit of a material, and I know you'll have to look through this video again. But right now, we will get into our usual meditation session. And Buddha found this meditation primarily for us to become a lot more conscious, a lot more aware of our sensations. As you see, sensations lead to feelings, feelings lead to emotions, emotions lead to the actual labeling of the feelings, labeling the feelings result in behavior. If you're able to become aware of your sensations and feeling tones, you'll be able to control your entire behavior, which in turn controls your emotional well-being. All right. So with that, let's dive into our. So for some of you who are new, this is the practice of meditation. Clasp your hands, cross your legs, close your eyes, and then you slowly bring your attention to your breath, and then continue to observe your breath as you inhale and exhale normally. As you continue to do it, you will get thoughts, you will get feelings, you will get sensations. The whole idea is for you to observe, let go, observe, let go, bring your attention back to your breath. This is the exercise that we keep doing. which in turn, what does it do? It increases our skills of awareness. It increases our skill of acceptance because we are not attached to a particular feeling. We're not attached to a particular state of mind. And then it increases our level of attention, our concentration to our breath. It brings our attention to concentrate breath. All right. So feel relaxed, get into a normal posture. Feel absolutely comfortable. Keep your back straight. Keep your neck and head straight. I'll just play some music for around 20 minutes. Feel your body relaxed. Feel your shoulder relaxed. Slowly take a few coherent breaths. Follow your in breath and out breath. Slowly bring your attention to your breathing, normal, natural breathing. First, follow the cycle of your breathing. Right from the point you inhale, feel the air going through, feel the sensations due to the air going through your nose, your throat region, your chest region. Feel the movements in your stomach region as you inhale, and similarly as you exhale, follow your breath from your stomach to your chest, to your throat, to your nose. Continue to follow your breath, breath after breath. Follow the variations in your breath. Follow the sensations due to your breath. There are a lot of things that happen in your body and mind just by being with your breath. This practice of breath mindfulness or Anapanasati allows you to build the skill of awareness just by following your breath. Any thoughts, any distractions? Appreciate that you observed it and return your attention back to your breath. Continue to be with your breath, my dear friends. Your breath connects your body, mind, and soul energies. What we are learning in this series, consciousness spans across body consciousness, mind or ego consciousness, and soul consciousness. It is not just enough for us to be exhibiting positive thoughts and positive feelings. For our holistic well-being, it's very important that we live and engage doing things aligned to our soul purpose. The purpose of our soul is to express itself, to establish deep connections, relationships, and to be able to contribute, help others, serve the interests of other people for their well-being. We've seen all our negative emotions arise because at some point or the other, our ego's needs for safety, respect, recognition, individuality was not addressed. As long as they are not addressed, repeated negative emotions result in blockages or imbalances in our energy body. Two ways of getting over the emotional blockages are to stop accumulating negative emotions and to clear the past repressed emotions. We stop accumulating negative emotions or negative feelings that impact our energy by being in present moment awareness. We stay in witness consciousness. We are not attached to what is happening. And we are equanimous. Breath mindfulness meditation allows us to do that. Deeper states of Anapanasati meditation also allows you to clear the past imprints, past limiting beliefs, that were contributing to your feeling of anger, fear, and sadness. Just follow your breath 10 more minutes. Continue to be with your breath, my dear friends. Please remember, you're all soul beings or energy beings in a physical body. You are pure energy. We realize we are souls, we are energy. We have the ability to create anything through our thoughts. To get to that level of realization, we need to clear things that hold us back to the material world. The only way, only complete path for the cleansing and connecting is mindfulness and meditation. Stay relaxed. Continue to feel any sensations due to your breathing. Last 5 minutes. Scan your body with your attention as you still become aware of your breathing. Just move your attention, move your awareness from your head to toe and toe to head for any sensation that you are feeling. Could be stiffness, could be tightness, could be relaxed, could be pain. All these are sensations, are the beginning stages of the emotion loop. As you practice becoming conscious and aware of sensations during meditation, you also become mindful of these feelings during your daily life. Slowly bring your awareness to your heart region, dear friends. Feel the emotion of gratitude in your mind. Express thank you, express gratitude to all the people and situations in your life, around you. Feeling thankful for something attracts more of the same thing. So with that feeling of gratitude, slowly relax your body. Slowly come to the end of our meditation. Relax your shoulders, relax your neck. When you are ready, unclasp your fingers. Place your fingers on your eyes for a few seconds. And you can open slowly. All right, my dear friends. So hope it was a good session, good meditation. I know a lot of new insights and new knowledge was shared. We'll open for any questions, any quick questions in 10 minutes. So next week, we will look at the last session. We'll do a brief summary of all the sessions we had, and we'll look at conscious creation. How do I create my health, create my well-being, create emotional well-being, create the reality that I want through intentions, positive feelings, and alignment with the soul. Okay, we have a hand raised, says ABS. Okay, so I need to unmute. Yes, ABS.
Good evening, sir. Hello.
Good evening, ma'am.
Sir, I am Valsala Nair from Trivandrum. Sir, I have one or two small doubts about the soul. I have read in some books that the fetus is formed and it develops, all those things are happening, and the soul enters only just before the time of delivery. It doesn't enter in the beginning itself. Mind is created, the body is created as per the instruction of the mind, but the soul is waiting. The soul is ready for that body and mind, but the soul is waiting, and at the time of delivery, or if you maybe 1 or 2 months or just before the delivery, it enters into the fetus.
No, good question, but that seems to be not right based on a lot of other literature, right? See, if you look at it, the brain and heart develop much later for the fetus, right? So when you look at soul as energy, right, the moment it is conceived, the moment the conception happens and things start growing, that means there is energy there, right? It is energy ball. That is, energy grows and then starts adding, right? So that is what I said. The soul mind, if you call it mind, there is the soul energies start there, and then slowly other things start developing, right? So to the best of my knowledge, wherever some of the books that I've read, more or less, it corroborates to that. The soul forms first, soul decides where to come, and then the rest of the things form. Because one of the common things people say, right, the brain starts functioning only much later. right? So the brain starts forming much later. So that means before that, there is some intelligence. There is some intelligence for the brain to form, for the heart to form, for the energetic signature. As we say, the energetic signature actually gives rise to matter. And that energy signature is what we call a soul.
And one more doubt, sir. So we say that soul doesn't undergo any change like our body or mind, and it has only the property of witnessing. It doesn't take part in any of our karmas. And or if that be the case, how can we call the soul evolving, like infant soul, matured soul, old soul, like that?
Good question. So soul, again, as I said, right, there is this ego mind and the soul mind, whatever we call, right? The soul mind has a property like what you said, right? Soul mind has all the properties of consciousness, which we covered in the first two sessions, right? It is loving, it is abundant, right? It is peaceful, it is perfect, everything. But the fact that it decides to incarnate on the material plane, it needs a ego mind, right? When we say the infant soul, it means that means in the early stages of the ego mind. As I said, soul first decides to come, there is the ego mind that forms. But the problem is, once here, the physical entity doesn't realize the presence of soul. It completely continues its journey from an ego consciousness, right? The soul consciousness is completely hidden. So what happened? The soul came here for it to be realized, to experience. But unfortunately, the ego consciousness did not allow the soul to be expressing itself. So it goes, it comes back again, it comes back again. So that this whole entity, ego plus soul, is what we talk about infant soul and adult soul. So once we continue to do, for example, let's say, right, most of the adult souls, right, are enlightened souls. When they say enlightened souls, that means they realize their soul consciousness, right? They take their birth here devoid of a lot of this ego-centric catches, right? So in that context is what we call the soul's journey. Because otherwise there's no need, then there's no basis for reincarnation theory, right? So the moment you, why does the soul keep reincarnating? Just for it to shed its ego limitations, express itself, and then do some good to the humanity, right? So that is the whole objective. And that is where the soul's journey comes, right? The soul's, the infant soul, there's a book called Soul's Journey, ma'am. If you look at it, yeah, so there's a lot of things in that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
A very good session, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Very good.
Hope it was useful. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Let me see anything on the chat window. Yeah, so if you go to YouTube, go to Pyramid Valley, search Pyramid Valley International, and maybe type Coherence after that, or my name, Sai Krupa Sagar, you should be able to get to this playlist. There's one question, it says frustration. What to do against frustration? Obviously, frustration is a feeling with the emotion of anger, as you saw in one of those slides, right? So frustration is because some of the needs of your mind were not met at some stage in your life. And the idea of, again, once you bring the frustration into conscious awareness, slowly things change. You'll have to realize why you are become frustrated. What is the source of that frustration during the first 8 years of your life, right? And then you'll be able to find that answer. And then over time, even if you're not able to do that, once you bring the frustration and anger into conscious awareness, it slowly dissolves. Nothing difficult out there. So you have to bring that light of awareness, light of consciousness onto that emotion. Once you consciously start feeling the emotion, it will go away. Okay, so wonderful, my dear friends. I think thanks for joining this on this Saturday evening, and leave you to have your rest of your weekend. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and see you next week, next Saturday, for the last session on how do we use all this consciousness to start creating a life of peace and joy, life aligned to our soul's aspirations and soul's desires next week. So same time, 5 p.m. IST, let's join the same Zoom link. Till then, have a nice weekend, have a nice time. Thank you very much.
The pyramid is meant for meditation. It has got the high energies. Enjoy the high energies of the Maitreya Buddha pyramid and the serene circumstances of this valley. Spiritual science is the basis for all other sciences. In spiritual science, we understand that we are all gods, come here of our own accord onto this earth planet to see that the earth planet becomes a heaven and not a hell. How we can transform this hell into a heaven, that is the subject matter of spiritual science. And masters of spiritual sciences are the experts in spiritual sciences. Meditation is the doorway for enlightenment. Enlightenment is the doorway for welfare, health, wealth, well-being, and joys in life. Meditation is the foundation of spirituality. Spirituality is the superstructure built on the foundation of meditation. Everybody should dedicate a couple of hours every day for meditation. Every day, as we dedicate our life to meditation, we become a source of inspiration, joy, energy to everybody around, everything around, every being around. We emanate energy. We want to see the whole world become a joyful place for every being, every animal being, every plant being, every mineral being. That is the duty of every human being, to provide joy and energy to every other being.